Countrymen and women, good afternoon, my leaders. It's a rare opportunity for me to come and address the media just a day before this Animal Code Bill 7 is brought on the floor of the House again. The UPND government had pretended to say they had listened to the ruling of the court and just hibernated it a bit before they came back to, bomb it again on us. Already, that creates doubt. Once you start something and people advise you to say it is illegal and the courts make a pronouncement, I believe that you are supposed to adhere to what the courts have said. There is a Bemba saying which says, meaning that if people have given advice and you adhere to it, you will end up being alive, meaning that you will not miss the opportunity to do things correctly. Here is a situation where, as your members of parliament, we are found in a very serious or critical position where we have to make a decision. What should we do so that our people can know that our desire is to represent them? Initially, I would want to state that we want to appreciate the opportunity that you, the Zambian people, gave us to represent you in parliament. However, we are finding a serious challenge because we know that there are three arms of government. There is the executive, the judiciary, and us, who are parliamentarians or who call ourselves lawmakers. Now, a situation where the Constitutional Court said this process which you have started hasn't been done in the correct way. Can you stop it and restart again? Instead of adhering to what has been said, we find ourselves in a situation where our parliament wants to continue with something that was said to be illegal. Now, there has been, precedent set. A long time ago, our members of parliament, they decided to defy the orders of the constitutional courts, where they went ahead and paid themselves for the 3 months that is said to be the total 5 months, or they continued working during a period when they are supposed to have stopped, and they paid themselves. Edgar Chagwalungu, in his wisdom, he said, since the courts have said you should pay back, all of you must go and pay back. And it's on record that the Patriotic Front listened to what the courts said because of the separation of powers. There is no way the courts can make a judgment and then us in parliament, we are resisting what has been said. That sets the basis for why us as Patriotic Front members of parliament believe that what is happening is an illegality because a guideline was given, and after that, people don't want to adhere. So what do we do? Should we go against what the Concord said? Should we just listen to ourselves and just remain adamant? That is the question that you, our fellow Zambians, will have to answer today or a later date. What should be known is that today we may seem to be, having this honeymoon of doing anything that we desire as parliament. But maybe, for example, the UPND government loses in 2026 as they are going to lose the election. What is going to happen if the new government says, let us revisit the ills which these people were doing in parliament? All of us are going to be locked up and will end up leaving our families outside. And at the end of the day, all of you will be saying, hey, but they knew that the court had made a pronouncement. Why do they continue to go ahead? That is number one reason. Number two, you see, when you're leading a nation, you must portray a certain picture where people can be able to trust you. Number one, we are hearing, no, we want to bring in more youths. This is what pains me, maybe as an individual and as a lawmaker. Where is Maureen Mavunga today, who was the youngest person in parliament? They used their ways of doing things and removed Mabonga, and today a young career has been thrown out there. And you see, when people are talking, you must look at them so that what their actions are working in tandem. We were coming out vibrant, and he was bringing out issues, and even the ruling we are talking about today, whilst he is in jail, he's able to push, knowing that that young man is a lawmaker at heart, because he's able to write and instruct his lawyer, can you go? He's even winning cases whilst he's incarcerated. You cannot take away from him that he's a genius and he's a person who could have contributed to, creating a better environment. Because, I mean, amongst your children, there are some who are loud, some are quiet, some, they can provoke you, but it doesn't mean you throw your children away. Where is JJ today? JJ is running around, trying to see where he can seek refuge. All those are young people. And then someone should say, no, let us amend the constitution so that we can bring in young people. When you have been able to chase the young people who were in parliament, so which young people are, and you see, they come in this bill, the powers to the speaker, such that just the declaration of the 9 members of parliament by the speaker who have nowhere to go and seek recourse. We can't go to the constitutional courts to go and protect ourselves. Meaning that members of parliament are going to be chased at will. So all these are some of the ills which are there. Now, when you look at our parliament today, how many Patriotic Front members were there before the coming of Bill 7, just after 2021? You find that almost 60 members of parliament. Today, the UPND, they wouldn't have been talking about changing the law if they knew that the numbers were intact the way we were. Because the way God had allowed this election to go on, the UPND had won, but they didn't have the numbers to even pass the Bill 7 today. What did they start doing? First, they started reducing the numbers of the opposition. We have Malanji out, we have Bowman out. So they just started attacking the members. For us, first we were observing, where is this game going? Could it be that our people erred, or what is it? No, it was a strategy. What they wanted was to start first reducing the numbers, and then they should reach a level where now they know, okay, the numbers are not okay. So if the numbers are not okay, it will be easy for us to pass this constitution. Doubt number one. Once you are leading and people can be able to observe, look at the numbers from 60 reducing to less than what would have made a 2/3 majority. Secondly, apart from just locking these people up, the others, people who have committed murders, are being given, bail to go out. Meaning that those of our MPs who have been locked up, like Venechirangwa, Venechitotela, you can be given bail and you can still be useful and give guidance. So what they want is the Patriotic Front to be in a confused manner so that they can be able to do whatever they want to do. In fact, they just want, to rape the Constitution. By chasing all these people, they were working on numbers. How many have we been able to reduce? Here's a situation for Tasila. Instead of Tasila burying the father, the government takes them to court. So before Tasila could realize he hasn't buried the father, the speaker makes a ruling on the floor of the house to say that no, we do not, you only come back to parliament after you have buried your father. 14 days, all of us, our ears were open and we heard. Have we buried Edgar Lungu today? We haven't buried. What are the reasons? They took the family to court themselves. So you see, all these games are culminating into what they desire to have. Because now they can no longer hide. So they take away Tasila, and now there will be a by-election. And you see, even the way they are putting all this, we normally sit on a Tuesday. But because of this Bill 7, they know that there will be nominations in Chawama tomorrow. They also put Bill 7 to be discussed and debated tomorrow so that they can split the brain of the opposition, where they'll be thinking, oh, what should we do in Chawama? Or what is it that we're going to do? So all this is the Mingalato, which was being talked about. I find it maybe very offensive and painful that you can wish to lead a nation with such, preconceived ideas where you say, I'll do this and then I'll do that and then this is what is going to result. You don't rule a country like that. You're supposed to rule a country showing love and trying to unify every other person. Here is the worst drama now, which happens. They now impose a leader. According to the Constitution, we are supposed to choose a leader of opposition. Ourselves, as the opposition, we are supposed to choose a leader. We are supposed to go to an election on our own, whatever we do, whether we just agree. But there must be an agreement on who should be the leader of opposition. And we sat and we made an agreement and we said the person who's going to be the leader of opposition appointed by the former former leader, the late, His Excellency Edgar Chagwa Lungu, he appointed and said, no, we are going to have Honorable Mundubire as a leader of opposition, and the whip is going to be who? Honorable Kampion. Everything in place, but our parliament today, they change whoever. They will change your president, they will change your leader of opposition, they will change your whip, they will do everything for you. Now, Zambians, how can we trust this particular government to say whatever they are bringing is in good faith? With all this mistrust across, this which I have talked about is something that me as just a normal person is seeing as something that is, mingalato, culminating into trying to create a one-party state. Now, here is, you see, it's so painful that every time this is about people remaining in positions of authority so that they can tramp on their friends. Hence, we have seen it and we have seen the evil, and we realize that if we are going to go with this level and with this type of governance, we are going to take you Zambians into the drain. No wonder, as Patriotic Front members of parliament, genuine members of parliament, would want to, our people out there, to really understand why we are standing the ground of saying, 8 people as people with disabilities. So you'll find that as long as someone doesn't have that eye, he doesn't have a gender eye, first he will close the ministry. How can he say that he wants to more women when he has even closed the Ministry of Gender? Let us not, people are so deceptive. Huh? The first thing he did when he came into power, he closed the Ministry of Gender. So what women is he talking about? If he says that he wants more women to come into parliament, and yet he has closed their ministry. You people, you should be able to see behind the evil, because if he really loved women, today the Ministry of Gender would have been running. If he really loved God, the Ministry of Religious would have been where? It would have been available. But here is a situation, no, Namipoka ministry, but at the end of the day, I want more women. Those are lies. He doesn't want more women. He wants to have women in parliament whom he can control. Me to be who I am. So you'd want to appoint, Lorraine, Brenda, Joyce, and you people, you go into parliament. Can you be able to say anything against him? Even his own MPs today, who do not support this bill, can only speak through us. Please, sure, can you just try to help us? Even as we are not in agreement with this, but if we show it, it's going to be very bad for us. So that is the type of leadership that we have today. And for me, I feel very weak to go into that parliament and start supporting you. I know Zambians, you have vested your authority in us, but to tell you the truth, appoint women, and then today he says, no, let us have more women. This is about more women. And when he says, no, it's about more youths, all the youths in parliament have left. Only old people with grey hair. Those returning residents of the returning residents of parliament are the ones that he's maintaining there. And they have put him under pressure to say, if you don't create more constituencies, you are not going to release pressure. Because he knows that in his strongholds, they have put him under pressure to say, if you are going to continue holding on to those returning residents in Parliament, then you are not going to have our support. So we cannot go ahead and be able to change the constitution just for us to satisfy someone's whims, for us to satisfy a particular individual so that he can be able to, release his pressure. That is not the way you amend the constitution. You amend the constitution because the people have said this is what we desire. The other issue I wanted to speak to, there is this, land resources to a particular constituency. You increase the amount. 40 million, which they are failing to give us today. You find that they've only released 4 million out of 40 million, which they have so much pronounced in the CDF. Where are they going to get 80 million? If they have failed to release the 40 million, which they have pronounced, no, CDF is working, CDF is magic. Now, they have failed to release the 40 million. Today, it's December 14. They have failed to release the 40 million. The ice cream on top, but the poison is under. So it's better to remain on the right path of history than to join the wrong side of history. So if you think, no, if I change from green to red, then people, don't be cheated about an adoption certificate. No wonder they want to also squeeze you on becoming an independent. Because me, I know, if I say that, no, these people, they don't want me, I'll just put to say, my symbol is a pen. There is Brenda Nyirenda behind the pen. If the people in Lundazi are satisfied with the works which I do, they will go and vote for a pen. Because they will know to say, behind the pen, there is a powerful woman called who? Brenda Nyirenda. So why should you be worried? If really you have done the work, why should you? No wonder they wanted to squeeze the independent, the route of becoming an independent. They want to block it so that all of us can just say, no, what are we going to do? Let us just join the ruling party. Zambia is a multi-party democracy. And we are happy that today we can even be found in the House because of plural politics. If it wasn't for that, other people would have just been one-party state and we were not even going to be in the House today. So Zambians, be patient with us. Whatever route we are taking is the right route and it's going to take you where you are supposed to go. You've realized that there was an error which was committed, you made a mistake, and today farmers in my constituency and many other constituencies, these rains, because at the end of the day, they can't even be able to plant because FRA has kept the money. We should rush to constitution amendment. Instead of the money which is being wasted we would have closed on the 5th. They have decided to give us extra days, spend more money. This money which you are spending on us, this is the money which you are supposed to do what? To pay farmers. And yet, you just want to retain more power and you want to have many members of parliament. We haven't even been taught. Those who have taken, those members of parliament who have been hidden somewhere. Is that how you do a constitutional amendment? Bring the figures out. ECZ appeared before the committee. Can you tell us which constituencies do you want to, to demarcate? Do you know what? No, the report upon Pakumwa, the report is upon Posamba, the report is somewhere being backed to the report. How? That is not the way we run a country. You are supposed to be transparent so that people can really believe in you. So the voice from Lundazi and the voice from many others, standing members of parliament, it doesn't matter how hot it is. It doesn't matter how painful it can be being in opposition. It doesn't matter what we have gone through in parliament, others who have been flying up and about. It doesn't matter the pain that you undergo. What is supposed to happen is stand your guts and be able to preserve so that this constitution, if you went ahead and did the amendment against the wish, because some of the people are holding them by the neck, no, your child or you yourself, you are going to be arrested because you have taken a lot of them into prison. Alas, the future is going to judge you. what I would advise is, Vane, this is a last bit that Zambians are holding on to. Can we try to stand with the Zambians? Can we try to stand with the poor women? Can we try to stand with that marketeer who has been tossed up and about? People, Mukairo Road, they move with Vitenge Bamanga. It's not children they are carrying. They are carrying to my merchandise which they are selling. But the council is pushing them up and about. Every day people are running around. And if it's farmers, some by tomorrow, 04, if you go around, if you are really, investigative journalists in rural areas, you find that the farmer is waiting at Indobank, or the farmer is waiting at the DACO's office. Is that the way to treat people who are feeding the nation? So for me, the red flags which have been highlighted, there are too many for me to trust this government. And I feel, as Zambians, please stand with us as your MPs. We are asking for your prayers. We are asking that if it's possible, fast and pray for some of the members who have been held to a ransom, so that tomorrow there may just be a people who stand and believe that there is God in heaven who can be able to fight their battles and do the correct thing. Even if they will be wheeled into parliament, you can imagine people with families, for you to go and say wrong things. Wherever you are, I know that you have a conscience. May it speak to you. May the Holy Spirit enter into that same room where you are being hidden, so that you can come out victorious. At the end of the day, you will remain on the right side of history. The voice of Lundazi, you have it. They know very well the answer is no Bill 7, no Bill 7, and no Bill 7. I've said it 3 times and it is settled. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Thank you. The voice of Lundazi. After a powerful woman like Benedict speaks, you run short of words. You try and put your thoughts into words. But I will try as much as possible to address some of the issues that may have not been picked in the statement by my colleague, Honorable Nyirenda. But also let me start by first recognizing the protocols. Honorable Brian Mundube, the presidential aspirant for the Patriotic Front and chairperson for Constitutional Affairs in Tonse Alliance in Parliament. All members of Parliament that are here present, members of Central Committee that are here present. The media, you are very welcome. I've been asked to state a position which reflects the position of the members of Parliament for the Patriotic Front who are opposed to Bill 7 and give reasons why we do not support Bill 7. But when I was listening to Honorable Brenda Nyirenda speaking, I couldn't help but remember what the UPND are renowned for. They are renowned for telling you something and doing something completely different. When we brought Bill 10 to the House, it was a result of massive negotiations with stakeholders. The major stakeholder for Bill 10 were the UPND themselves. But lo and behold, if you saw the drama that they fettered the nation to, when we were preparing to go and vote on Bill 10, they managed to snatch some members of Parliament, literally kidnap them and hide them somewhere. And when Bill 10 failed, they had the audacity to feed them hungry lion and dance in front of cameras, to show that they had won that battle. I remember the Minister of Justice then, Honorable Given Lubinda, warning the UPND that the ghost of Bill 10 will come haunting you for the rest of your lives. And what we are experiencing now, in fact, what we've seen in the past months from March this year up to now, was the ghost of Bill 10 coming to haunt the UPND. And like we expected, at the time when we had managed to convince our colleagues how bad this Bill 7 is, and were prepared to go and vote on it, they have again snatched members of Parliament in the usual style and put them in solitary confinement with the expectation this time around that they will do it in a completely different way. What they did at that time was hide them to prevent them from coming to Parliament. This time they have hidden them with a view to presenting it in Parliament. I have actually been informed that there are even some members of the UPND who are against Bill 7, who, if they had been given to exercise their mandate, their constitutional mandate, without any interference from their leadership, they would have gone into that house to go and vote against Bill 7. But the canvassing they've been having, the meetings they've been having, and what I have been informed, the gratification they've been given, and the assurances they've been given for more gratification, is what has made these people lose their objectivity, and now they're being, led to the crow like cows, put in one crow for the night and taken to another crow to go and vote, possibly to come and ask them to come and, pass a vote that is going to support Bill 7. For the objective members of the Patriotic Front, we face a greatest trepidation right now as members of parliament. From the time that we went into that house, today we face the most challenging time in our role as members of parliament. Why? Because the first order of business in that house, when you are elected as a member of parliament, is to take 2 oaths. The first oath that we take in that parliament is to protect and uphold the Constitution. You sign off and you swear on a Bible. The second oath that we take is to pay allegiance to the office of a president. So all of us have 2 oaths that we have. First, we have an oath to protect the Constitution and prevent from being violated by any person, and any person includes even the president himself. And secondly, we have an oath of allegiance to the person who's holding the office of a president for the period that we are sworn in to sit in parliament. And now, we have what is called a clash of oaths. Our 2 oaths have clashed. What are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to uphold the Constitution, or are we supposed to participate in an agenda that has been authored by President Hakainde Hichilema to violate this Constitution? I always like to quote the provisions of Article 91 if I'm speaking to the public about the duties that the president has, for the 5 years that he's allowed to be president of the Republic of Zambia. I will speak about 2. Firstly, the president is expected to respect, uphold, and safeguard the Constitution. That is the prime responsibility that President Hakainde Hichilema, holds in that office. Secondly, he is supposed to promote democracy and enhance the unity of the nation. It is very clear where we are standing currently, that Bill 7 and the agenda around the amendment of the Constitution has divided this nation. In fact, it was thrusted on a nation that was already divided. This nation was divided from the first day that UPND took power. This country was divided because it favors investors against local Zambians. This country is divided because it favors certain tribes against other tribes. This country is divided because it favors the rich people against the poor people. And which is why the UPND's first line of call was to destroy the Patriotic Front. Why did they want to destroy the Patriotic Front? Because the Patriotic Front stands for the poor people. It is a party that was crafted, designed, made, and implemented to represent the interests of the poor people. Our agenda was to make sure that the policies we promulgate were going to be ones that bridge the divide between the rich and the poor. And that we were able to do it is demonstrable if you look at the 10 years that Patriotic Front was in power. We may not have been angels, but at least we managed as much as possible to bridge the gap between the poor and the rich. The infrastructure development agenda that we ran with for 10 years is there for everybody to see. And this is what is giving the UPND headaches. Because the biggest thing you can see UPND having made is a toilet on the Copper Belt. Compare that to what the Patriotic Front did in 10 years. This is giving them terrible headaches because they pretended to the Zambians that they are going to be very good at infrastructure development compared to the Patriotic Front. We didn't say anything when we came into power. We had a manifesto that spoke to us about us. And we followed the manifesto to the letter and to the spirit. So, the members of the Patriotic Front who are members of parliament in that house, with some independent members of parliament, I must add, those who are facing the trepidation of the clash of votes, we have made a resolution. Our resolution is that we are going to uphold the Constitution. We are going to allow President Hakainde Hichilema to violate the Constitution himself by going about the agenda of Bill 7, even in the midst of the controversy that surrounds Bill 7. Bill 7, the journey itself, is the dirtiest journey this country has ever had, has ever walked in an attempt to amend the Constitution. Why do I say the dirtiest? Because when the UPND came into power, they never said anything about a quest to amend the constitution. When they were prodded by the public, they vehemently refused any agenda to amend the constitution. According to them, they came here against the backdrop of what they call massive infrastructure development programs. Now, when it became very clear that they couldn't do any single serious infrastructure development, they then decided, how do we survive 2026? That is the beginning of the journey of Bill 7. They then decided, can we tamper with the constitutional order of the nation? Can we make sure that we create a constitutional order that favors us as we get into 2026, so that from the day we're going to pass this constitution, the country will so change that nobody is going to remove us from power? That is the thinking that the UPND has about Bill 7. And that's why you see this very stubborn approach they're using to Bill 7, to the extent that they're not even prepared to listen to voices of reason. People have spoken to them. We in Parliament have said that the journey is wrong. It doesn't comply with the Constitution. The contents are bad. They do not reflect the aspirations of the Zambian people. And you can start this journey by going back to the people on the Constitution and begin this trip. Of course, they fought us in Parliament. Fortunately for us, Honorable Munia Zulu, like my sister had said, from behind bars, together with the Celestine Kandira, put their minds together and retained a lawyer from jail and said, we need to make an inquisition about what is going on with the UPND agenda to amend the constitution. For us, we had been lied to. The leader of opposition at that time actually made it very clear we can't buy into that lie. Because the story they gave us was that, no, we are just going to harvest low-hanging fruits, and we're going to find some uncontroversial provisions in the constitution and amend them. And we told them that you can never find a non-controversial provision in the constitution, let alone a low-hanging fruit. The constitution has got no fruits. It is actually the fulcrum of the nation. The whole nation meets at the constitutional order. If you are going to say we're a democracy, they will look at what you have put in the constitution to determine what kind of democracy you are. The 2016 amendment to the constitution is by far the best amendment this country has ever made. I've said it before. It admired not only in the region, but even afar afield, because a lot of work was put in to come up with that constitution. We did everything that we could possibly do, including ramping up everything from the Chona Commission, Review Commission, from Mungamba Review Commission, Professor Mvunga's Review Commission, Mr. Manakatwe's Review Commission, put all those reports together and come up with an amendment to the Constitution. This is why Act number 2 of 2016 is a very superior amendment in this country. And there was no need, like people have said, John Sango has made it very clear, there was no need to amend Act number 2 of 2016. We should have allowed it possibly a period of 10 years before we ever thought about amending it. But our colleagues came through with this nefarious agenda of amending the Constitution. And why have we said that we don't agree with it? Because first, like I said, the process itself is wrong. Secondly, and most importantly, even when it was tested before the judiciary, in our Constitution, we've got Article 128. We resolved, and I remember when I was the president of LAS, that is when we amended Act number 2, or we introduced rather Act number 2 of 2016. When we were appointing judges, I went and appeared before a select committee that was put together by Speaker Matibini, to appoint judges of the Constitutional Court. I had an opportunity to educate that select committee, and Jack Mwimbu then was member of parliament in the opposition. He was on that committee. I told them, we are doing something that is going to either enhance democracy in the country or that is going to be destructive democracy in our country. Enhance because we were agreeing by putting in this constitution, Article 128, where we all agree as a nation that if you have a dispute about whether what you are doing is constitutional or not, we have selected those few men and women who we put in the Constitutional Court judges to give us an interpretation. And all of us were agreeing at that time that we are going to be bound as a nation by what the Constitutional Court is going to say, whether or not what we are doing is constitutional. And I told them it is a very exciting journey, but it can also be a very dangerous journey. It can actually be a very dangerous journey to people who don't believe and espouse in constitutional democracy. Those judges were appointed. When this journey of Bill 7 started, it was felt prudent, like I said earlier on, by two people who took the matter to court. The Constitutional Court guided. First, the Constitutional Court told the Attorney General that what you are doing is unconstitutional. The process that you have put in place is unconstitutional because it violates various principles of Act number 2 of 2016. And they said the whole process is a nullity. Now, a nullity means it doesn't, you have done something so useless that it should not be allowed to proceed. For lack of a better term, that's what the court was telling this government, that your process is so useless, it does not respond to the aspirations of the Zambian people, it is null and void, it is non-existent. Replace it with another process that you can go and start all over again. That was the guidance that we were given. Now, the UPND, like I said, they are the most devious government that we've had in this country since independence. If you saw the steps that preceded the decision of the court of the Constitutional Court, on Friday, from nowhere, the minister rose on the floor of the House and saying she was deferring the bill. We were so shocked sitting in that parliament. We are about to start debating this bill. What is the information that the president has guided the minister to defer the bill? What was the president doing with the bill which was on the floor of the House? Now, that tells you that this is a one-man agenda. So this man, whose agenda was now about to be disrupted by the Constitutional Court, decided, let's do a deferment. And the minister, unashamedly, decides to stand in that House and say, we are deferring this bill. Unfortunately for them, even when they deferred it on Friday, on Monday the Constitutional Court still delivered its judgment where they nullified that bill. So if you have a bill that is deferred, which has been nullified, what are the next steps? The correct next step is to just forget about that bill and start the process afresh. That is what democracy demands. That's what a government which is supposed to be the first in complying and respect the decisions of the Constitutional Court must do. Article 128 clearly says when the Constitutional Court says something about the Constitution, we are all bound. This binds even the president himself. This binds the executive. This binds even, the National Assembly. But you saw how the drama unraveled. The National Assembly stubbornly decided they want to still continue with the agenda, even when it has been nullified by the Constitutional Court, created by the Constitution, which was passed by the same National Assembly. There's a disaster in this country. We are actually teetering on the brink of a constitutional breakdown. In fact, we already have a constitutional breakdown, because by sitting in that parliament to consider Bill 7 now, when the court has already ratified it, you are actually creating problems for the future. People have spoken to the consequences of this process. If this process goes, forward, there are damning consequences that are going to come. First, we are going to amend a constitution in an unconstitutional way. What are we going to be showing to the citizens as a government that is in power? That we must be trusted when we can violate the Constitution in attempting to amend it. And for me, the UPND is not a stranger to violating the Constitution. Everything that they have done from the time they came into power, they have done it against the backdrop of violating the Constitution. The Mopani deal violates the Constitution. The matter is still in court right now. Miles Samba took it to court. The KCM deal with Vedanta violated the Constitution because they never brought all those transactions to Parliament to have them ratified in accordance with the current Constitution. Okay? This highway robbery that I'm seeing, I drove on it even yesterday. This project here between Lusaka and Indora, the so-called dual carriageway. First, the quality is so poor. But if you look at even the way it was conceived, implemented and everything, it violated the Constitution. Because first, they never brought it to Parliament for ratification, which was a requirement. Okay, but most importantly, they have done it against the backdrop of bankrupting the pension fund. Our pension sector now is almost bankrupt because most of the money that they had was put on that project. And that project has now been done for the past probably 3 years, and you can't say something is happening on this highway. In fact, a new government that is going to come in would have to come and inquire, why we can have a project like that today, and money that came from pensions board cannot be properly accounted for. Meanwhile, people are collecting tolls on the project itself. All those are violations of the Constitution, and for them, it doesn't matter. As long as they do what they want to do, complying with the Constitution is a secondary responsibility. And which is why even now, when the very Constitutional Court tells you, ladies and gentlemen, you have violated the Constitution, please, your document is a nullity, it's invalid, go and start a new process. You still hold on to the same process. In fact, they wanted to bring it back to Parliament without the technical committee. What pushed them to come back to Parliament is because the bishops authored, a pastoral letter. They condemned them and told them to stop the process and allow us to go to an election using the current Constitution and then start the process all over again. That's when they quickly went and hid somewhere in the night and appointed the technical committee and said, okay guys, since the Constitutional Court says put up a stakeholder consultation process, put a technical committee in place. And that technical committee was appointed in a very controversial way. Firstly, we didn't even know who had been appointed. And we found there were no letters that were even written. I don't know how true that story is. And people were just sworn in without terms of reference. Then they are sworn in the morning and they're given terms of reference in the evening. How do you employ somebody without interviewing them, without telling them what the job description is? And when they're hired, they even swear that they're going to take office. Then you give them terms of reference. I had called upon the technical committee at that time. I said, please resign your positions because they violated you. Because at the end of the day, they want you to come and sanitize Bill 7. Because the terms of reference that came out of the technical committee were basically Bill 7 itself. But thank God, you know, the technical committee chose to sanitize itself and not sanitize Bill 7 because they followed the terms of reference that were given to them, which included offering a report and preparing a draft bill. And they did exactly what they said. Unfortunately, that sent the government again into panic. You know, you appoint a committee, give it terms of reference, comply with the constitution, it runs around, consults in a most minute way of consultation, but still authors a very good report including a draft bill, and you decide we are not going to deal with this bill. What kind of government are you? What kind of men and women are you going to be? How can the country continue trusting you if you can misconduct yourselves in such a fashion? You spend so much of taxpayers' money. At the time you are failing to pay farmers. At the time, so many things are not going on in the country properly. You decide, okay, put in place the technical committee. They come with a report, and you say, we're not going to listen to that technical committee. And you saw the panic from Honorable Mwetwa in the night. Literally, you could see this young man is panicking because now they've been caught napping. You know, what they wanted was a technical committee that comes to regularize Bill 7. But that technical committee, believe it or not, for me, I even said it. I said, thank God that appointed Judge Mchabati, a man that I had respected myself to head that technical committee. I asked myself, this man has been a judge. He has, worked in this country as a judicial officer at the highest level of Supreme Court judge, and he went out of that office without a single scandal. And I asked myself a question, is he really going to allow himself to be abused by politicians? To dent his image, which he came out with and retired with. He's actually enjoying his retirement right now from the Supreme Court. I said, let's wait and see. Landran Nzulu, Landran Banda is a scholar that I know, a very good human rights activist. I asked myself, he knows the law. Is he really going to agree that they can just sanitize it? Fortunately, they've redeemed themselves by doing exactly what they set out to do and authored a report and a draft bill. The panic of the UPN, because for them, this was all to lie to the people. Because this is a government that was created for lies, it operates on lies, it survives on lies, and it wants to continue propagating itself on lies. Even Bill 7 is a scheme, basically for them to survive 2026. So when the technical committee authored a report that didn't agree with them, they went up in arms and said, oh, no, we're not going to do it. And then they did something that is extremely insulting to a technical committee. They told them, oh, you can go and appear now before the select committee. You know, the other time I was saying, fear the person no running over there, no put their dies which were bad, patch tank. I mean, you do something so credible by appointing a technical committee and telling it, go and do the work. It goes around the country and it comes back and authors a report. And we have had technical committees before. We have had commissions of inquiries before in this country. When the executive receives the report, it has to implement the report. If it says we want to implement the report, it ends there. There's what is called the principle of functus officio in law, that when an institution that is given a mandate discharges its mandate and prepares a report, that report is a final call to duty. They have to go and rest. And you come and insult them and tell them, okay, now we are not going to accept your report because we are the government, but we're also giving you a chance to go and appear before a Senate committee at Parliament so that you can go and reproduce your report in that Senate committee. We've been asking for such a long time to use Zambians. Please take interest in how this government is managing the affairs of a nation. You have never seen a government conducting itself the way the UPND is conducting itself, where you can send your select committee, your technical committee to go and appear before an inferior, because a technical committee is appointed by the president. the select committee is appointed by the Speaker of the National Assembly. And you ask a superior board, a presidential appointee, to go and appear before a speaker's appointee and repeat what they said, in a view to continue, hoodwinking the public. No, we're actually going on with the process. When we sat as these members of parliament and pondered through all these meetings, we asked ourselves, what is the role of parliament in this house, in this country, currently? What is the role of parliament? We can be rubber stamping this wrongdoing that is taking place. I mean, at least they were clever enough not to bring the Mopani deal to parliament. They were clever enough not to bring the KCM to parliament. And even this highway robbery that is taking place here, they never brought them to parliament. At least they were clever enough. But this time they even want to insult parliament by giving you a bill and a technical committee which did some work and then come and make a presentation. Look, this is why we have said we are not going to participate in this unconstitutional process. We are not. Okay, but beyond the procedure, here is what I want Zambians to reflect on what is going to happen. If this bill passes tomorrow, we will live with some of the most damning consequences of having breached a constitution. And this I say in this country at a constitutional level. And this is why we stood firm and said we can't participate in it. One principle that you must look at is that from independence up to now, there's a silent principle that espouses our constitutional order. And that is what is called the principle of Kasaro. You need to go and listen to that answer. He had difficulties making that statement. It was very hard for that young man to open his mouth and say what that man is a redeeming voice in this country. At a time when we're grappling with difficulties of finding out where are we taking ourselves as a nation, he's just let out a document and said, gentlemen, here's the delimitation report of 2019. I looked at it today and I told myself, no wonder the UPND does not want to give us their delimitation report. Because if you saw that delimitation report that was made public by Seshua, and from the source that he got it from, it is the most equitable delimitation report that anybody can ever come across. It equitably distributes constituencies. It shows clearly that there are, and in fact you could even see, if you looked at the numbers, there were more constituencies created even in southern England. Okay, but there was an attempt to be as equitable as possible countrywide in letting out which constituencies are going to be delimited. And I told myself, here is the answer. This is why the UPND is hiding the delimitation report. And Kasaro just cleaned himself up because we were going to continue blaming the ECZ and that young man for not having produced a delimitation report at the time we were looking at Bill 7. They have released it. The politicians are hiding it. And why are they hiding it? Because they want you to pass Bill 7 without knowing which constituencies are actually going to be delimited. Now, Seshua has created a plate for debate. He has now created a plate for dialogue. As we consider Bill 7, consider the report that Seshua has made public of what the same ECZ had done in 2019 in creating new constituencies, and now make a comparison with what the government is going to make available. I bet my life there will be a marked distinction between what Seshua has made public today and what we are going to see in the new order. And this is where my point, the point I talked about of regional neutrality comes in. If peradventure the document that is going to be a delimitation report authored by the UPND government now is going to be different from the one that Seshua has made available to the public, then I'll be justified that part of the agenda for the nefarious Bill 7 is to achieve, a departure from regional neutrality in electing members to parliament and in electing the president. And if you add to that the sheer numbers of people that the president is going to bring to parliament without election, we are going back to a one-party state system. Mark my words. And that's where we are. We need to be able to interrogate these things and have a discussion that is open, and that is objective. And we need to see exactly what is in the mind. Leadership is about trust. We must demonstrate that we must be trusted. If the UPND had produced the delimitation report before, today, or before tomorrow when they are going to be in parliament to debate that matter and make those decisions, definitely we were going to have a debate that is rich, and we are going to all agree as a nation that Bill 7 is evil and we should never allow it to see the day of light. The last point I want to make is Zambians must also reflect on how we have amended constitutions before. The president always wants to justify this point. He says, well, we are blaming me. Every other person has, amended the constitution in this country in the year of election. We have demonstrated here before that all the other CRC processes that we've done in this country have taken a minimum of 3 years. Minimum, even when we're going to go to the year end into the election, that culmination into the election, you should add it from the time that we started the journey. And you're going to see that the minimum we've start to try and do, a constitutional review process is actually 3 years. This one we are dealing with started in March. It's like you want to amend the constitution in the same way someone wants to boil water in a microwave. They'll just put it in and take it out and you've got a constitution. That's exactly what we're doing. Now, if you have a constitution that is microwaved like this, it tells you there's something amiss with it. Because any objective amendment of the constitution must take time. It must be demonstrated to everybody that it matters. In Bemba we say, once ever chikumine, now wakataka ulubadi ukulanda kupafia constitution. Aliens or menaganza kutinane ninga they use a term called Ndemanga. Anandemanga, Africa Pondemanga, alias Aike Pondemanga. Everybody, it must be shown that everybody has participated. Why? Because a constitution is not like an ordinary piece of legislation. It is owned by the people. This constitution opens with the remark, we the people of Zambia. And every section of the constitution says these powers are vested in the people of Zambia. Judicial power vested in the people of Zambia. Legislative power, which we exercise at Parliament, vested in the people of Zambia. Executive power, which the President, exercises at State House and his cabinet, vests in the people of Zambia. This is why it is always necessary to bring it to the people. The very thing that we were afraid of when we did this constitution is what is happening today. How can you have a constitution amendment that is so microwaved? I mean, they were sitting even yesterday. They were adopting it over the weekend. Like my sister said, they're sitting on Monday. Monday is our day of recess at Parliament. They collapsed the standing orders for them to go and sit on Monday. And as we're speaking to you, some of our colleagues are quarantined. With a view that they're convinced them. I wish they were given the opportunity to listen to what I've just said here. So maybe they would have had a deeper understanding of the agenda they're being pulled into without knowing what they're going to do. But they've been quarantined. They would never have the opportunity to listen to this agenda. And these are views you can never, debate in that Parliament. That Parliament is completely it's collapsed. Decorum doesn't exist in that Parliament. That Parliament is a rubber stamp. Tomorrow there will be rubber stamping Bill 7. Unless Zambians stand up and say we are not going to allow this to happen. But there are consequences, of having these amendments. People have actually spoken about the fact that, yes, you can amend the constitution, but then there are issues. How do you deal with an amendment to the constitution which is itself found to be unconstitutional? Especially Bill 7. Because Bill 7 itself has already been nullified as unconstitutional. So it's an extreme case of violating a constitution where even when the court tells you, please don't go ahead, you still go ahead and amend it. So what would be the consequences? People that have spoken about it have actually said, look, whoever is going to come and serve in compliance with that constitution will be furthering constitutional breaches. And there will have to come a time when this country will have to come and take a stop. People say chickens always come back home to roost. You might think you are being clever today by trying to embed or entrench into a country a lopsided system of democracy that violates all the principles of constitutional democracy as we know them. I said the other time that this is entrenching a kakistocracy, where the most incompetent people, the most incapable people are the ones who take over the reins of power, and now they even want to insulate themselves by amending a constitution. Because once you amend the constitution, you will insulate them. All the wrongdoings, the wrong things they'll be doing, they're going to be doing it. What is 2/3 majority if 40 people can come to Parliament without an election? Of that number which is going to be to that Parliament. We are actually moving on from the tenets of constitutional democracy and we are bringing back a de facto one-party state system. You will have a constitution that is ineffective. You have a constitution that will just be a piece of paper, and the constitution really is just a piece of paper. Unless people begin to apply conscience to it, it still remains just a piece of paper. But this is the journey that we are standing at. So I thought I should come and share with you the deep thinking of members of Parliament of Patriotic Front and Independence who decided we can't go on. And I just want to also, give my thanks to the many people that have called Honorable Brian Munduvire, called myself, and called all the other members of the party, including Honorable Nyirenda, to plead with us not to go to Parliament. To plead with us not to go and, give credibility to a process that threatens so much to divide this nation. And for some of the statements that we are making, we know that those who don't believe in democracy are going to start seeking us out one by one. But frankly, we have to get to a country where we can return it to normalcy. And our responsibility is shared as members of Parliament. And we know we've got so many partners outside there who think that what we're doing is right. We are not going to be in Parliament tomorrow, and it's not because we have surrendered to the whims of those people. No, we are just stating a principle. We are stating a position that we were elected for a purpose. The government of the UPND have described it before as it's a lie. The whole of it is a deceptive construct. They created a state of circumstances where they lied to you. Oh, we are going to use the rule of law. There's no rule of law in this country. We are going to be constitutional. There's no constitutionalism in this country. We're going to revise the economy. The economy is getting deep into the red in this country. This is a government that has failed from day one. And all they want to do now is to use the Constitution as that one reed in the river for a man who's drowning to hold on to and say, I will survive using this reed. And that's all they are trying to do. Maybe we need to come and take the reed away from them so they can continue thinking on their own. But Zambia is bigger than a political party. Zambia is bigger than any political grouping. And Zambia is definitely bigger than any elite group that wants to entrench itself on our constitutional order. We want to ensure that peace continues to prevail, and our constitution in Act Number 2, 2016, guarantees peace. These machinations that have taken place in the last 7 months by the UPND are designed for nothing else but taking away the guarantee of peace that we had in this nation. We are peace-loving Zambians, and we love our brothers and our brethren so much. I hope that people can wake up in the next 24 hours and change the tide. The Titanic would not have sunk if that captain had listened to the young man who said, we are going the wrong way. Here we are only trying to tell you, Mr. President, especially you, Mr. President, because this is about you, sir. I'm sorry to say this, but this is about you. You are the people, you are the person to whom Oasis Forum has come. You are the person to whom, the church has come. You are the person to whom I know diplomats have been speaking about this journey. This is about you, sir. You are the captain of the ship. Listen to these redeeming voices. We are going the wrong direction, Mr. President. It is within your right to steer this ship in the right direction. If the Titanic captain did not listen, had listened to that young man who said, sir, change course, the Titanic would never have a story that we talk about even now. I hope that we can change in the next 24 hours and see how we can turn this country where we're supposed to be. Thank you very much.
Great submission.